The local players are back, Corey. I don't know if you were paying attention since you were actually working at the time. And I don't know. We other thing was we haven't really decided what the rating is for this here show. If it's family friendly or if it's not safe for work or not. So I'll just use the clean language until we make that determination. But I dubbed yesterday "doo doo the bed Saturday"
Due to the bed
because
Saturday.
there was a lot of that going on throughout the country, and including one you witnessed out in Ruston last night between the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs and the Marshall Thundering Herd. I caught a little bit of that cause I spent the evening on the patio with a fire and some
Yeah, I was gonna
dinner.
say I saw you had your fire pit set up. I mean, you were doing it big last night.
Right, because bye-week vibes are the best vibes. Did that last night. I got up this morning and cut my grass. Listened to listen to
Sorry. We're live,
to,
okay? We're live.
yeah, this stuff happens sometimes. So I'm not let people walk in the background before, just go with it. But like I said, I woke up this morning and cut my grass, listened to a little dad rock while I cut my grass because that's how we do. But
Dad, little Michael McDonald.
oh, it's up there. You got it. I guess it was. I guess it's some would call it yacht rock. It is a nebulous term, and I guess since
Kenny Loggins and
well, since I kind of got this whole Kenny Loggins thing going on right now, this is why I break precedent. So.
bro, you're definitely mid-30s Kenny Rogers right now. It's like it's lit.
Kenny Rogers or Kenny Loggins, because that's probably the unfortunate thing. You're striving for Kenny Loggins, you end up Kenny Rogers.
Hey, wait a minute now. We can't be disparaging the gambler now.
No, I did enjoy a meal at a Kenny Rogers Roasters back in the day. So that was always good, and happened by how the chicken only rivaled by Dixie Stampede in Gatlinburg. If you know, you know.
Go ahead
anyway.
and show the people. Show the people. Show the people.
Oh yes.
Show the people.
This is an authentic in the wild airbrush t-shirt from the homeland, because that is the rule. Everybody in East Tennessee knows I did not make the rules. I just comply with them. When you go to Gatlinburg, you leave with an airbrush t-shirt and a sword. That's just the way it is.
It's not a choice; it's a way of life.
Mm-hmm. You just have to embrace it. But going back to last night, as I was watching that game unfold at Joe IA Stadium, I was paying attention to the matchups up front for Tech's offensive line against Marshall's defensive front. And after a couple series, it's like, oh, this might get ugly, like real ugly. And sure enough, it outside of a nice garbage time touchdown, it did.
So you caught the very beginning, the first series of the game. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I caught Luke Anthony running for his life from some very, very large men.
Well, see, here's the thing. You say that, and there's no way to differentiate what point of the game that is. I mean, obviously, to your point, I mean, that was the story of the game. I mean, 6 sacks. I think it was 9 total tackles for loss. And that's why I asked you that question, because first offensive snap of the game, I mean, Luke gets sacked. And it was a tone setter.
Yeah.
Look, Darius Hodge, this junior defensive end for Marshall, he's probably one of the best group of 5 defensive linemen out there. I mean, the kid is for real. I mean, the kid was he was terrorizing Luke as well as Aaron when he got into the game in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was terrorizing those guys. And, it's been an issue. The offensive line has been an issue for Louisiana Tech, all season long.
Especially now.
I'm sorry?
Especially now without Willie Allen.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago when Willie decided to opt out, they had already played a couple of games without him. And, like I said, they struggled a little bit. But where I scratch my head is that, yeah, Willie hadn't played a snap all year long in those first couple of games. I mean, Southern Miss early on in that opener was able to disrupt a lot of things that Tech wanted to do offensively with their pass rush. But after halftime, Tech went to the locker room in Hattiesburg and made some adjustments. And, by the end, it didn't look as bad as what it was. And obviously Houston Baptist is Houston Baptist. But it's it's almost as if the struggles offensively on the line has gotten progressively worse for Louisiana Tech as this season has gone on. And I know last week against UTEP, of course, no Donovan Campbell at left tackle, no Antoine Lewis at right tackle. So, it's a tough deal when you find out Friday afternoon that both of your starting tackles are not going to be available to play the next day. And so you really haven't given your backups enough reps and practice during the week to get ready to play in a game like that. And obviously UTEP, they showed that. I think UTEP ended up getting 13 tackles for loss against Louisiana Tech. I think they ended up with, it was 5 sacks and 13 tackles for loss that UTEP had. And so this is the second straight week that the offensive line has given up at least 9 tackles for loss, and the second straight week where they've given up at least 5 sacks. And when you do that, you can't get anything going offensively. Tech ran the ball 24 times last night against Marshall. Do you by chance know how many rushing yards they ended up with 24 carries? Just take a wild guess.
I want to say under 24 yards.
7.
Wow.
7 yards. 7 rushing yards.
Is that sacks included?
Sacks included. And that's what I was just about to say. Some yards came off, via sack, but look, I mean, Justin Henderson has struggled all year. He has not looked like, the Justin Henderson that we all knew from 2019. I'll tell you, I think as each week goes by, I think senior running back Israel Tucker is continuing to make a case for himself that he should be the starting running back for this football team. I think every game, every week, every Saturday, he comes in, he spells Justin, and he brings a spark, and it's not like it's not a point production spark, but I think from an approach and from an attitude standpoint, he brings a different element to the offense that's missing when Justin's on the field. They're two different running backs, right? I mean, Justin's 6 foot tall on his best day, probably weighs 223 pounds. He's a big bruising back. He's the Jerome Bettis, of Louisiana Tech's running back staple. Well, Israel Tucker is 5'8" on his best day. Weighs about 190 pounds. I mean, he's almost just as strong as Justin pound for pound wise. You're not going to bring him down with one tackle. It's going to take multiple guys to bring Israel Tucker down because his low center of gravity, allows him to be able to break a bunch of tackles. But he's quicker and he's shiftier. And last night, I think Israel Tucker ended up with more rushing yards on 7 less carries than Justin Henderson. I think Justin ended up with 14 carries for 15 yards, I believe. So just basically right at 1 yard a carry.
Oh.
And Izzy averaged 4 yards a carry. So, and this is not the first game this year, Adam, that Tucker has out averaged, Justin when it comes to carrying the football. So, I wouldn't be surprised this weekend when they go out to San Antonio to play UTSA at the Alamo Dome that Israel Tucker doesn't take the first snap, at running back. I think he should. I think he's earned it. But Tech's got to get something going offensively, man. They've really entered into a really crucial stretch in their schedule here. They've got UTSA this coming Saturday on the road, and then you follow that up with a home date against UAB, who is currently leading Conference USA West. And it's an opponent, obviously, the last 2 years that has, 2 years ago won the Conference USA Championship. Last year, played for it again. They've kind of been, kind of tops in the division for the last couple of years since they've really been able to get their legs back under them after the shutdown. So, I mean, it's Tech's at a breaking point in their season. Last night, I think with the way the game unfolded and just how dominated that they were against Marshall and how dominating Marshall was, because they talked all week, right, about, Marshall being a measuring stick. We want to see how we measure up against a team that seems to be the best team in Conference USA East. And I think what Louisiana Tech found out is that the gap between the East Division's best team and them is really sizable. couldn't get anything going offensively. I think top to bottom, I think Grant Wells is a better quarterback than Luke Anthony at this point in time. Brendan Knox at running back is of the 3 running backs that really got a lot of carries in the game last night, he was the best running back. Marshall's offensive line, 5 seniors, 4 of them returning starters.
That's huge.
It's aligned in Louisiana Tech. I mean, we could go all the way down the list. Their defensive line was better than Louisiana Tech's defensive line. Grant Wells was not pressured at all yesterday. He was pressured a couple times, and he was able to escape. And so Tech tried to, drop 7, sometimes drop 8, and he picked apart his own defense. There was nothing that Louisiana Tech did against Marshall yesterday that was effective. Nothing. And it's a hard pill to swallow, because again, you go from winning 10 games last year, you go from you're basically a suspension away from playing for a conference title.
Mm-hmm.
And so to live through that reality and to see what you saw on the field at the Joe this past Saturday, it's kind of tough to swallow for Tech fans, and probably even Tech players and coaching staff. It's a far cry from where they sat this time last year. And then, we could get into the whole, fall camp was staggered due to COVID-19 things. And, we had Hurricane Laura come through, knocked out power in the city of Ruston for 9-10 days. And we've dealt with a multitude of off the field issues, and we should take that into account. But, Marshall's been dealing with the same stuff. It's some of the off the field stuff has kind of leveled the playing field when you talk about this stuff, and Marshall's handled it better, and it's going to be interesting to see where Louisiana Tech goes from here, because like I said, these next two ball games are, you're playing the 3rd best team in the West this coming weekend on the road, and then you got to turn around, you got to play the division's leader at home 2 weeks from yesterday. So really crucial stretch here. This could be a situation where Louisiana Tech maybe they change some things up offensively. Skip was really he was really high on a freshman that he actually played a lot at right tackle last night in the absence of Antoine Lewis and Dakota White. He thought Dakota White did some really good things, and he was actually the 3rd option that he used yesterday at that spot. Byron Rossell started, lasted 1 series and got pulled because he allowed 2 sacks on the first series. And then Walker Hankerson, a redshirt freshman, comes in, played slightly better than Byron did, but not well enough to stay in the game the whole time. And Dakota White came in and was probably the best of the 3 right tackles that they had at their disposal last night. So Antoine Lewis will be back next week, and I know that'll be big. But still, to say that I'm confident in getting him back and the offensive line playing better than it has the last 3 weeks, I'm not confident in that at all.
No, and that's understandable. And really, I don't know what there is for them to do offensively until they get better up front, because that's where this whole thing starts in every level of football. If you're not good up front, there's no way to mitigate that. I mean, you can do some things, which Tech did against Marshall Saturday night. You can try to throw screens and quick hitters, things like that, so that the ball's coming out, and you're not asking somebody to stay in the pocket the whole time and avoid getting sacked. But I mean, eventually you're going to have to move some people. That's just how this game is played. And until they figure that out, then this could very well be a rough stretch, at least until we get to November 21st. Kind of feel like we know what we're going to see there, but between then and now. But we'll see how Tech handles the Alamo Dome this week. Again, as we have said on this show, I did not foresee a reality where someone has ever, at least since 1995, has ever said, "I'm excited about playing in the Alamo Dome." You will see that next week. I will be elsewhere, but let's look at some preps, man. It's a big week. This is probably our first tried and true big week of the high school football season. We got some good ones. I guess we'll start at the top. At least it's my top anyway. The Fighting Farmers of Union Parish High School They're coming to the Panthers Den on Friday night. They're going to play Sterlington, their rival Sterlington, the Battle of the Bridge, as it is known. And also,
Battle of the Bridge. What's the origins of that? I've been here 4 years and I've never heard that.
oh, you've probably never been to Sterlington proper, have you?
I mean, I've driven through Sterlington a few times.
Have you? Okay. Have you like what part of Sterlington?
I mean, I've driven by that. Is it a paper mill or something out there? What's out there? What kind of is that?
Oh, the industrial plant that blew up like 20 years ago. Yeah, that's another story for another time. Okay, so you've been through Sterlington proper. The reason I was asking you that is because there is this idea that, like, when people think of Sterlington, they think of Frenchman's Bend, Thatcher Point, all that. Like, oh, that ain't Sterlington proper, buddy. You need to get on Highway 2 and keep going. Then you see what Sterlington truly has to offer. And you keep taking Highway 2, you go across a bridge. And once you cross that bridge, you are in Farmerville, America. Hence the Battle of the Bridge. Also,
okay, so that's where that comes from.
In the fact that Union just snake bit in this game. The past 2 games have been losses to Sterlington, one in the playoffs, one in the regular season, decided by a grand total of 2 points. I was at Doc Elliott Stadium last year to watch that one. Sterlington went for 2 in the win at the end. Hayes Crockett pushed it across the goal line, and that's how that one ended. And if you think that Joe Spatafor and those guys have not been thinking about that game literally for over a year now, then you just dude. That's what it is. And and Union's going to come in. They're going to come in there fired up. They always do. They're going to come. The key to beating Union is you got to handle that physicality. They're going to come off the bus punching you in the mouth. You have to take one on the chin, and you have to recover, and you have to keep playing until the game settles down, and that's where you can get them. But that may be more easier said than done too, because Trey Holly is playing out of his mind right now. This dude has been through 3 games, has appeared in 1 second half in 3 games, because they've had to pull him off people. It was like that against Franklin Parish last week. He had 148 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns and an 85-yard kickoff return touchdown in the first half. So he was done at halftime from there on that. And it'll be the first test really for a Sterlington team that since that, I shouldn't say first test, because they did play Oak Grove and lost that one 14-12 in week 1. But
we don't forget about Oak Grove.
But no disrespect to our friends out in West Carroll Parish, but I think this Union team is way more talented. And when you take that,
and a hell of a lot bigger.
Yes, huge. And when you take that into account, it's going to be rough, especially in the trenches. It's not going to be for the faint of heart. We'll see. Sterlington has not lost a district game in the regular season since joining that district in 2017. The only person that's handed an L is Richwood, and that was in the quarterfinals that year. So might be a chance to see that unseated. We'll see. Then we also got a surprise one from this week. Pineville. I guess we should send them a thank you. Even though I don't know what's going on there. They were supposed to play Ruston, decided they couldn't play Ruston because of some COVID issues, and now they're looking for another game. So tell me.
So the biggest question here is, what happens with that district game? Is Pineville forfeiting this game?
That's the thing, because from the beginning, Eddie Bonine, the LHSA executive director, has said that teams are not going to forfeit games. He's not, because of COVID issues. They weren't going to do it that way. But when you cancel on Ruston because you say you've got a COVID issue, but then you're also trying to find another game for Friday night, I don't know what you do with that. And that's something the executive committee is probably going to have to decide. And I can't see that going well for Pineville, even though, I guess, just for the record, Pineville principal Carl Carpenter is on the executive committee. So he will probably have to abstain from that one. But anyway, that move, questionable as it may be, has wrought some good in that the defending Class 5A state champion Acadiana Wrecking Rams are coming north, and they are going to play Ruston at the Hole at Grambling in a rematch from the past 2 years. And You look at these games the past 2 years, Rustin's been right there with them.
Yep.
They lost by a touchdown in one game, lost by 6 points last year. So we'll see something's got to give. But for a Rustin team that we're both very high on, here it is. If the hype is real, we're going to know Friday night.
Yeah. Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but
because obviously neither one of us were able to actually cover that quarterfinal playoff game last year between Rustin and Acadiana. But
that wasn't Acadiana. That was
Zachary. Okay.
And even then, just to your point about Rustin being right there, they lost that one on the goal line. They were going in with a chance to score and beat Zachary, who was the back-to-back state champion at the time. So
yeah. Okay. You're right, because Rustin and Acadiana played, what was it, week 2 or 3 during the regular season last year? I think week 2 or 3, I believe.
Yeah, they played week 2 last year, and they played week 2 the year before last. In 2018, Rustin lost 28-21. Then last year they lost 28-20. So that's why I'm saying you're just right there.
Yeah, and last year, correct me if I'm wrong, but Rustin did have a lead in that game last year, right?
They did. If memory serves, they lost it on a Hail Mary. Yeah,
and so I mean,
it's almost kind of like that Union Sterlington situation, right? Where Boz is about as even kill as it comes when it comes to our area high school football coaches. But if you don't think Ball and his coaching staff has been sitting around all offseason, that being one of the games that they've been thinking about. Obviously, that Zachary game's probably been really high on their mind too. But when you, after the entire season breaks down, and then you go, man, we had the team that eventually won our classification state championship. We had them on the ropes, off the hook. So the way the season played out last year after that game, I mean, that's a game that had to have been really high in their minds, this off season. And obviously, again, weird off season, and we didn't know if we'd be here where we are right now and things of that nature. But as they were getting ready to open up spring ball, I mean, that was probably one of the games where they continued to talk to their kids about the importance of finishing games, right? I mean, again, the last 2 years, their seasons have ended, with them not being able to finish games in the playoffs, and now you look at a team that's, they're inexperienced at some spots. Obviously the quarterback spot is a spot where, they're ushering in a couple of new guys there, a couple of young guys, breaking them in. But, you still got, and I know Bull's not playing right now, but you still have him on the sideline on Friday nights. You still have him encouraging his teammates. You still have him pushing those guys. And I'm sure they're probably seeing at least some outlining things, with his, rehab process and trying to get back on the field to help them win when he's able to get back. And so, you got guys like Jordan Willis on the defensive side of the ball, a guy that's in the wars the last couple of years. I mean, I think this Rustin team has got the experience in all the right places to finally win these types of games. The Acadianas, the West Monroes, they have the guys in the right places to finally. It's like I was when I got home last night from the Louisiana Tech game. I watched the Alabama-Georgia game, and that was some of the conjecture. Late in the game after Alabama put the game away, it's like they were talking about Kirby Smart and when's he going to win that big game. It's kind of like the same thing with this Rustin team. It's like, when is this Rustin team going to win this big game? Well, I think they have all of the necessary pieces on this team this year to win these big games.
I do too, and we'll find out Friday night. But some other games we got going on, just some maybe not quite as big, but still interesting on a few levels. The Ouachita Lions, who I watched, put 62 on Bastrop Friday night. They're going to the reservation. Open district play with West Ouachita. A West Ouachita team that's 2-1 could be 3-0 if some breaks had gone the other way against Bastrop. A West Ouachita team that has not allowed a point in 2 weeks. Now, granted, hasn't been against the best competition, but still noteworthy themselves. Also noteworthy, they seem to have found themselves a feature back in Cole Nolan. He's run for 100 yards in all 3 games this year. He was 14 carries, 159 yards, and 2 touchdowns against Northwood Lena. And another one as far as programs looking to make leaps that are building and searching for that proof of concept, that would certainly be Matt Middleton and the Chiefs. They were able to make the playoffs last year, have a winning season. I covered that Pineville game, which was huge for them to do so, and it was big for their kids and their program. And now they got a chance. We'll see how they handle the Lions.
Okay. Here's a question I have about Washita. Obviously, you've been able to catch them, I think, a couple times this year. I haven't been able yet, but is there a more improved unit on any of our coverage high school schools than Washita's offensive line?
That's a good question, and probably not. That's probably it. And shout out again. I wrote about him this week, but it can't reiterate enough. Washita center, Ben Pipes, all 5'9", 220 of him. And those are both very generous listings, but I'm going to go with the roster because that is the information we are given. Squaring off against Lance Hurd from Bastrop, who, as they say in coaching parlance, is a big old youngin', 6'6", 300 pounds. And Ben won that matchup, won it all night. And it was just impressive to watch. And really, they did a good job against Union, too. Union had an even better front than Bastrop did. And so I think from an offensive standpoint, this is a team that can score and score really with anyone. Now it's going to be whether they, how much improvement they can make on the defensive end as they get back in shape after that layoff they had. And I thought there was improvement against Bastrop from Union. Of course, it was a completely different style from Union. Bastrop's going to throw it often, which is why that game didn't end until after 10 o'clock, even though it had been decided way earlier. So now you're going to go back to seeing more of the run this week with West Washita. And, Washita's going to have the advantage in speed and athlete for athlete. And we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's kind of like the same situation as last year with West Washita, right? They won all their non-district games, and they're sitting there, going into district play, and they're undefeated, and it's like, well, we're about to find out exactly how good this West Washita team is, right? I mean, it's one thing to beat up on the Northwood Lenas and those types of teams, the Lakesides, those types of teams. But now the real test begins. You're opening up district play. You get Washita Parish High School. They're playing out. No, they're playing on the reservation. That's right. Yeah. So and maybe that'll help them. Them getting their first district game at home this year. Having that home field advantage. Maybe it'll be something that they could use. You don't know, but. They obviously made a lot of changes offensively. I spoke with Matt, in the preseason. I know they had they got a new quarterback, and I know they've also got some key pieces across the offensive line. I think they got 2 returning offensive linemen back from last year's team. They're about to find out exactly how good and how gelling their offensive unit is right now.
Yeah, and speaking of quarterbacks, I mean, it's one last thing to touch on in this game. You got 2 pretty good ones in this game. Of course, Zach Shaw, the ULM commit, he's had over 200 yards passing in both games this year, high school level. That's really good. Also got some good receivers. I think when you just look at a collective, Brandon Kimes, DJ Jacobs, and Jacoby Connor are as good as any receiving core in our area. Then you look over at West Washita. You got Little Matt, Caden Middleton, their quarterback. Threw 4 touchdowns against Northwood Lena, so he's being efficient with his opportunities as well. So that'll be fun to watch behind center as well. One more we'll touch on just because it's a game that may not always be the best played game, but it's one that's near and dear to my heart. We got Carroll and Richwood this week, and everyone should. And the same would hold for whenever these teams play Waspin as well. It's always a good time. Great atmosphere. They'll get you a turkey leg. I'm not joking. It's one of the best things you've ever eaten, and you just take my word on that. And look at this one. I saw Richwood against Sterlington last Thursday night, and it was a game where they were able to score late. Ended up losing 39-14, but it's to a point. This is the first one this year with Richwood that really got away from them because they're at the point where with this rebuild and Marcus Shanna as a second year, to where instead of just getting annihilated every week, they're still losing, but it's competitive games. I mean, they probably should have beaten Bastrop the week before. So I mean that's kind of where things are right now with them, and they hung in there with Mangum as well. And Mangum, as far as just looking at triplets, quarterback, receiver, and running back, it's as good as it's up there with anybody in 2A, I believe. So this is a Richwood team that needs something good to happen, and they'll be up to play Carroll. It's a big rivalry, historic rivalry. But then you look over at the Bulldogs. They went down and played Woodlawn Baton Rouge on Saturday, came back with a 33-24 win. Amarier Greeley ran for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. Great performance from him. And, this is a Carroll team that, outside of Antonio Hollins, I mean, a lot of question marks this year. Cedric Woods is at Louisiana Tech doing his thing right now. They lost every starter on both lines. And, there was always going to be a growing up thing with these guys, but that's a win they can build off. And it's two teams that are, looking to string together, some consistency and some success. And I got a chance to do that Friday night.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with these types of games that are kind of just maybe right outside the middle of the radar, right? It's that there's always these really interesting storylines, that you can sort of pick and pull out of them. And, Carroll coming in off of a win, what kind of momentum can they sustain from that? Richwood coming in off of some losses. Can they right the ship in the middle of the week, before Friday night and then matching up with Carroll? Those rivalry games too, it don't take much to get these kids up, right? It's like walk in on Monday morning and say, all right, boys, guess what week it is? It's Carroll week or it's Richwood week. And, and immediately, the jolt of energy that you need. And maybe for a Richwood team, getting a rivalry game at this point in the year could serve them a lot of good.
I think so, especially getting into this district. It could definitely help them. But anyway, well, I guess before we get out of here, we should spend a few minutes cruising on the good ship Warhawk. ULM's coming off a bye week, a much needed bye week. I wrote this week, and I still firmly believe there's not a team in the country that needed a bye week more than the Warhawks. Just to have that opportunity to work on themselves and improve some things without worrying about getting ready to play another opponent. It was just, I think, was huge. And of course, we won't know how huge until they get on the field against South Alabama on Saturday night. A South Alabama team who has improved. They sit at 2-2 after a 30-20 win over Texas State Saturday night. And how the rose has fallen off of that out there in San Marcos, because I
don't know who either one of these teams are right now. I have no idea who Texas State is. I have no idea who South Alabama is. ULM could go on the road and beat the South Alabama team. I'll be honest with you, Adam. Part of me would not be surprised.
No, me either. I was just about to say I think this might be their best opportunity to win a game this year, unless some things change going forward, which they probably always will in this volatile thing we call college football. But you look at South Alabama's resume. They beat Southern Miss on opening night, and Jay Hobson quit his job the next day. Then they come out to a big lead against Tulane the next week, their first game in their brand new stadium down there in Mobile, and had a big lead and blew that one. Tulane beat them, and then they just got smashed by UAB, which that happens a lot in this G5 level because UAB is very good. But so that's what we're working with on their resume. And for ULM, some of the things they wanted to do during the bye week is really peg down what they can do offensively. I won't say what they want to be, because what Matt Viator would want to be is a balanced running team, and I don't think that's what they're going to be at any point this year. So I think their identity lies in Colby Suits throwing the football and throwing it a lot. And at this point, you don't really have anything to lose there. Take some chances with it. Be aggressive. Let him sling it. And I think that's what they're going to do. The other thing is tempo. They didn't get a chance to really install their no huddle 2-minute stuff during their abridged spring and abridged August camp. But it's been good to them at times. They've done it this year. It was good to them against Georgia Southern, helped them get back in the game. I think that's something they want to experiment with that's something they did want to experiment with during the bye and, take with them into this South Alabama game. But my thinking is offensively, if you're ULM, I mean, you got nothing to lose at this point. Go out there, sling it. Let it all hang out. I mean, what's the worst thing that happens? You lose?
I mean, you don't get any lower than where you are now.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you have signs of tangible success throwing the ball down the field and letting Colby Suits do that. But the other thing they're going to have to do, and it was a topic of discussion during the bye, is this Viator and this offensive staff, they have to figure out how to adapt to not having a mobile quarterback. Because there's a reason at every level that the mobile quarterback is it evens the playing field because you have an X factor who can take off at any time and cause yardage. So you don't have that. And that's not a knock on Colby. Colby's very good. I mean, he's in the top. He went on the bye. He was in the top 10 in FBS in passing. So, I mean, we're not talking about somebody that can't throw it or can't play. That's just a different style. And you're going to have to get used to that different style. And, it changes things in the running game. It makes it harder. You're not +1 anymore. So it's just a deal where when you don't have that X factor, everybody has to be even better at what they already do. And the only way we're going to see that is when they get into this game and against South Alabama. Also, South Alabama's coach, Steve Campbell, was at Central Arkansas before taking this job. I don't think he's ever beaten that dude as far. They're buddies. And and Steve's good people. I've always enjoyed, interacting with him. That was the cool thing about Sunbelt Media Day, at least in its previous iterations. They all just kind of threw us in a room together with an open bar, and we just all got in how we fit in. And it was kind of cool. And Steve's a good football coach. He's had some tough breaks out there trying to rebuild that program. And they're showing signs of life this year, and ULM desperately needs that. So should make for an interesting one Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, South Alabama, at a couple spots have got some really talented kids. I mean, they're
I mean, that's the funny thing about them is, they're winning 2 and 3 games, but every coach in this league raves about how much talent they have and how they have good players. It just hasn't translated yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think back to the opener against Southern Miss. I mean, a game going in, I thought that Southern Miss would have had their way because of how South Alabama had been limping through the last couple of years, and I don't think the opponent that showed up at the Rock, I don't think Jay Hobson anticipated that, which is why Jay Hobson is currently not employed. So
one of the reasons anyway, but yes.
yeah, it's one. There's several others that we could probably get into that we probably don't have enough time to do right now. But I think South Alabama caught them way by surprise, and I think a lot of it was because of how athletic they are at the right spots.
And I think we'll close with this because I've been thinking about this at least off and on in the back of my mind since I watched it Wednesday night. And it speaks to the volatility of the Sun Belt in general and why I wouldn't be surprised if ULM finds a way not just to win one game, but more than one this year, just because I watched Coastal Carolina go to Cajun Field and beat Louisiana Lafayette Wednesday night. And not only did they do it, they did it without near as much talent as what the Cajuns have. I mean, Maribel's good at quarterback, at running back. They've got a quarterback who's very good in what they do with the option. But other than that, I mean, because you just watching that game, I don't know how many tackles Coastal Carolina missed in space. Like, dudes in position and just whiffs. So, I mean, that kind of speaks to the talent disparity more than, because people always ask, well, is it coaching or talent? Well, in that situation, when guys are in position and they're not making plays, that's players. Okay, that is on your talent and whether they can do that because the coach just put them in the right spot. So, but I just see that, and I really think, this Coastal's approach, and it's something ULM has done in the past, being different, trying to maximize little inefficiencies and things like that. I mean, I'm not saying it's the grand solution or quick fix to everything, but it's something I think that going forward, they could, emulate a little bit and just be as different as you can and be aggressive. And try to keep folks off balance. Not saying not saying you're going to just roll off these string of wins or it'll even work, but I think it's their best approach going forward. Because who knows? I mean, I watched a team with a 5'9" center. Not just in the Washita Bastrop game. I watched it coach in the Cajuns. They go there and wreck shop. So I mean, you just gotta think outside the box right now. I think that's where it is.
Chanticleers, are they the?
They're in the coaches poll, number 24, I believe.
Yeah.
4-0 Chanticleers, and just because this program began with an East Tennessee reference, it's going to close with one too. Jamie Chapwell from Coastal Carolina. He is from Campbell County, Tennessee, which is outside the Knoxville area. You would have no reason to know anything about Campbell County, even if you lived in Tennessee. I only know because I have two dear friends that are from there. But he did it for Caryville and Jacksboro, and that's where his bunch is sitting right now. So,
well, good deal. I don't know where any of those places are.
No, you got your Tennessee geography history lesson for this week, especially East Tennessee. But Corey, anything to add before we bounce?
No, just again, as we kind of always do here right at the end, just kind of want to direct everyone to the newstar.com. Just keeping tabs on the content that we're able to produce. I've got stuff, keeping track of what's going on with Louisiana Tech and how they can hopefully right this ship and have to right it really soon. We'll have a bunch of high school content, some new and different high school content that we've already kind of worked into our catalog, and we're going to try to do some more and different things that people can be on the lookout for. So just want to say, keep an eye out for that stuff, and just a big thank you for not only the folks watching this and hopefully absorbing at least a little bit of this content and information that we're putting out there, but just thanks for continuing to follow along with us and read our stuff.
Feel the same way. So come on back next week and hit us up on Twitter and at thenewstar.com, and we will talk to you all again soon.
All right, everyone. Have a good week.